Jamie Stanley's been campaigning for none of the above in the UK. Why?
Well, firstly, Eddie, can I just say thanks for having me on? It's my first time on BBC Radio, so I hope you'll be a bit gentler with me than you were with Boris Johnson.
Get on with
it. Well, basically, none of the above. I mean, we need it. It's a democratic prerequisite, in my opinion. I think Russell Brand's drawn attention recently to the malaise in politics and the amount of disengagement and disenfranchised voters. None of the above, if implemented properly, I think could re-engage those people and give people something to actually get involved with that could actually also potentially revolutionise the whole system and force the parties into actually engaging with those people who are disillusioned in the first place.
Really, you think the change would be that significant? If none of the above got, say, 10% of the vote, the other parties would look at that and go, gosh, you know what, we were completely wrong, we need to do this completely differently. Is it not a little bit pie in the sky?
I don't think it would be 10% for a start. I think that's a huge underestimate.
Whatever the figure.
Yeah. I think it would be a huge thing. It would send a huge message, but it has to be implemented properly.
But how do they respond to the message?
Well, I mean, firstly, it needs to be implemented properly. That's the whole point. At the moment, you were just talking about the Spanish model. The Spanish model, I personally don't advocate. The reason it doesn't really work, in my opinion, is because it doesn't have any teeth. It is just kind of a protest. The figure is meaningless in terms of a measure of disillusionment, because even if the none of the above option in Spain were to win and get the popular vote, it has no ramifications. The next candidate with the most votes would still take office. That's pointless. That renders it meaningless to me. We're proposing something different, completely different, where it actually would have ramifications. I mean, if none of the above wins, surely that renders the election result null and void, and therefore needs to have a rerun elections, rerun by-elections or whatever, and reopening of nominations. That is what none of the above means to me, and if that were what we had in this country, I think a lot of people would go for it. I think it would be a huge turnout. I think there'd be a huge percentage of the vote share would go for it, and yes, that would have a positive knock-on effect for the political parties, because then they would have to engage with those people.
Thank you for that. Was I nice enough to you?
You were lovely, mate.
All right, thank you. Jamie Stanley, campaigning for none of the above. Much more on this as the weeks go on. And in fact, there's a bit of politics coming up, although you might not be expecting it. Tomorrow, the comedian Ken Dodd turns 86.